This morning, I really want to talk about what I call the voice of the mother. This is such a core aspect of the divine feminine, and it means a lot to me because my role as a mother, I've done extremely well, and then occasionally really messed it up because I'm human and because we're all learning from prior generations and from self-help books and from each other. Anyway, so what does this mean, the voice of the mother? I want you to just take a moment, even if you want to pause this video, and think to yourself, how did my mother speak to me? What tone did she use? What were those catchphrases that I recall from my mother? Did she have like certain kinds of advice that she always gave? Or was there something she used to put in your lunchbox? Or was there anything that reminded you like, oh, that's exactly how my mother is? For instance, what is a phrase your mother used to say that would just totally like kill your party? Telling your friends to go home, or telling you to get off the phone, or interfering with whatever childhood or adolescent fantasies you had. So the voice of the mother is both that of love and discipline. And discipline really means limits. And limits are so important for growing beings, both adults and children. So the tone of love is really when you hear this vibration, and sometimes you can experiment just for yourself. You can put your hand over your heart or your chest and feel your voice resonating somewhere near your heart. Then you can like lower the tone of your voice, where you feel it way down in your belly. So ask yourself, where is this voice that I have coming from? Is it coming from my heart, or is it coming from somewhere else? And all information is important and valid. But as mothers, our key role is to shower our children with loving attention. That is our key role, to notice them, to notice what they love, to attend to their passions and attend to their joys. Because when we notice what authentically is arising from our children, not what we plan for them or schedule for them or manage so carefully for them, but what authentically arises from them when we use our heart voice to talk to them and say, wow, I love that shovel that you just picked up outside the tree. Then they also feel located. You have spoken from your heart in a way that resonates with what's true with them. A lot of our old parenting paradigms have a lot to do with order, rules, and punishment. And they are very negative based, and there were many kinds of understandings that were appropriate to another age, but are definitely not appropriate or constructive for today's children. And that kind of heavy, like, wait till your father gets home, or you just don't mean anything to me, or I really don't care what you do. All these kinds of statements that parents used to tell their children, like, children are to be seen and not heard. These are all quite damaging to a person's sense of self and therefore their foundation in life. And of course, as mothers, we want to give our children a great foundation. So as modern women, we're wrestling with these two tensions. One is the voice of the mother that wants to validate the authentic unfoldment of her child as that child is, not as we have ordered them up to be in our fantasy life or in some baby book, but rather what we see organically emerging from them, and to use our heartfelt voice to say, wow, I see that. And I see the joy you have in that. And this helps them be themselves and not what the world wants them to be. At the same time, we have this other tension, which is about wanting our children to be well adjusted and to cope well in the world. So we have this tension as mothers to also teach our children something about socialization, manners, how you treat people with respect. And so we use our voices a little bit more in the throat area, focalize a little bit up here to articulate what good manners look like and feel like and sound like. And we try to be models of good behavior for our kids in terms of just treating people with respect and really also attending authentically to them. So that's one way of using the voice to say, hey, this is how we do things. That's more of the teaching voice of the mother. Now I want to talk about the less fun voice, which is the voice of limit. And these limits are so important for children. There was a time when everyone felt like they wanted to be free, and freedom meant no rules, no discipline, no anything. And so children were just kind of left to do whatever, and that was a great thing. And actually, that's not such a great thing. And it doesn't teach the child about self-care, because limits are about safety. So for instance, I'm going to use a stern voice now. Drop that. Drop that. You have to be very directorial and very crisp. And that's a voice that like cuts through a certain kind of activity. And people use it a lot with their dogs, like drop that bone, drop that shoe you're chewing on. But it also works with children. So your child is running to the curb and you say, stop. You don't say, honey, I hope you'll stop. You use your directorial voice to set a limit and say no. And it may not feel pleasant to the child in the moment, but there's a real safety and trust when a child learns that stern voice is there to keep them safe. So for instance, the stove, right? Children love to get up on a stool or a chair and see what their mother or father is cooking. And the first thing they want to do is put their hand out to where the heat is, because children are exploring. They want to know what is sour and sweet and cold and hot. But of course, you don't want them to be harmed. So if a child is reaching out to the stove, you say no, or you say hot. And they understand that sense of sharpness and alarm is a safety mechanism. And they don't understand it at first, but it's very important. So these are really key features of the voice of the mother: the voice of loving attunement, the voice of teaching manners and socialization, and the voice of sharp or clear limits. And of course, you're not wanting to harm the child. You would never use that sharp voice about the child's character or their appearance, or you would never say don't wear those shorts, or you want to use that voice simply to set limits. But there's nothing morally wrong with a child choosing purple shorts on a pink t-shirt. So you don't want to use that crisp, stern voice to cut off their natural impulse to express themselves. And these are part and parcel of raising awareness about how we use our voice as mothers. These are ideals. These are kind of offered up as opportunities to just support you in your awareness. Where am I in my voice? And what am I setting into motion with my voice? And I don't know how it was for you, but I know in the older generations, it was extremely common for both fathers and mothers to tell their children what they would never be. Oh my God, you're never going to be this. Or, oh, I can see you're just going to fritter away your life. Or, oh, you don't pay attention in school and you're never going to amount to anything. These are just the worst kinds of statements to place on a child, because of course what you're telling them is, I have no faith in you. And you're teaching them not to have faith in themselves. And of course they will shake that off at some point. I'm just saying, in today's culture, we're wanting our children to express the joy of being who they are, and not punish them for being themselves. So the voice of the mother has a huge role in creating both the conscious and and subconscious tendencies that we develop as adults.